So when this airs,
Uh-huh.
it will be Black Friday, Cyber Monday time.
Okay.
So I just need to remind everybody to check out. I'm still determining some of my sales, so I can't plug what all of them are going to be. But I do know that my Etsy shop and my courses, and not one course, but the 2 course options, those will be 50% off.
Oh,
so
half off.
If you've been, putting it off, or you couldn't maybe afford it yet, this is the perfect time to do it, because I've never done my courses for 50% off. So if you've been thinking about it, you want to learn how to make your designs better, or eventually, sell your own laser designs down the road, make sure to check it out. So that will be 50% off. So everything will be on sale. The courses, my Etsy designs, the keychain thingies website. Now that won't be 50%, because there's several items that don't even have a 50% markup. So I'd literally lose money. So, right. But anyway, make sure to just follow. If you follow us on social media, I'll make sure to post the Black Friday sales, Black Friday to Cyber Monday. So if you're not a patron, you won't hear this on Friday, but you'll hear this on Monday. So you'll need to jump on it right away, because it'll expire Monday night. But just go check out us on the medias, either Riley Black Designs, or the Riley Black Project. I'll make sure to post it there as well, to see what the sales are and see if anything piques your interest.
Right. And if you are listening to this on Monday and you feel like you're rushed, next time, join Patreon.
I wonder if I could do a discount on Patreon. I don't think so, we'll see. But I'll look into it. If I can, I will. I'll put a discount on all these.
There it is.
All these things, and it's just to dig at the little heartstrings a little bit. Support us and our mission to get this man home, so that I'm not losing my mind with these kids by myself.
And welcome back to the Riley Black Project with Crystal and John.
Hi.
How you doing? It's been a week. It's been we were just talking about the hurricane, and doesn't that feel like last month with the week we've had?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It feels like a very long time ago.
It feels, and it was, because I just finished editing last week's.
Right.
Yeah, and we were just talking about the storm's coming, so we do it early because
the storm came, and it came in a different form.
Not the storm we were thinking.
No, it's a storm called JR.
Yeah, man, this 5-year-old stage is it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, and I think we have a special case that we're not equipped for currently. Not that we won't be.
Right.
Because that is my intention, is to
we're seeking help,
become equipped to handle our unique
situation.
5-year-old.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, man, it was rough. I got to give a quick shout out to MJ, who literally talked me off of the ledge, because, what night was that? Wednesday night? Yeah, it was Wednesday night. When
was it?
Yeah, because then I asked you to stay home yesterday, which was Thursday.
So yeah.
And normally I struggle to ask you to stay home.
Yeah.
But I no
struggle.
I knew I needed it just mentally. I needed the comfort of not being alone if he had another outburst.
Right.
So I can already feel it, so I don't want to talk about it too much, because I don't want to cry on air yet.
I promised myself I wasn't going to cry.
Right. Yeah. And I made it through yesterday without crying. So I am determined to do that again today. But yeah, I just wanted to thank MJ. She's been through similar situations with her boys.
Right.
And so she's been there. So at the very least, she could understand how hard it is, and, gave me a plan and things to do, and offered to be my advocate when we're going to the school and doctors and all of that kind of stuff. And that was just, I can't even explain how invaluable that was, because it just feels so fucking alone when you
Right.
don't have the answers and you don't
Right.
know how to help them.
Right. And you don't know what help to ask for, because
Right.
you don't like
when everything I've been asking for up until this point hasn't been working or hasn't been like
Right.
the right fit. And
Right.
it's like, I don't know what else to do. You
Right.
know what I mean? And you know, he's not enjoying all of this
No.
either. So
No,
like
because he's said that he doesn't want to act like that,
Yeah.
but he can't control it.
Right. So,
yeah.
you know, we all need the tools on how to
Right.
deal with his big emotions. So, you know, we're working in that path as quickly as we possibly
Yep.
can. And yeah, thankfully you were home yesterday. So when there was another one, and again, thank you, Florida, for amazing weather.
Yeah, it was nice out last night.
It was gorgeous, and
you
I
had
had
to
no
walk out.
problem standing outside. And you know, I mean, one of the therapists told us, you know, when they get like this, you know, it's the negative attention is any attention to
Right.
them.
Right.
And so, you know, and you were there, thankfully. Although even if you weren't there, I think I still might have walked outside, but thankfully you reminded me to bring the keys just in case he locks me out.
Next time, yeah.
But yeah, it was like I had to. He kept saying some phrase over and over again, and I could not hear it one more time.
Right, because he gets stuck with these phrases, and then
he just repeats it.
I want to watch TV, or pick me up, or I want to read a book, and then it's on constant repeat.
Yeah,
constant repeat.
Yeah,
and he doesn't, and he shuts down as far as like you can't talk to him when he's like that,
listening,
because he
there's
doesn't
no hearing.
right.
Yeah, no.
He's just constantly repeating and repeating and repeating it.
So
that's what we were dealing with.
I ran outside, and Heather and I compared pictures of the ways that we were currently dealing with both of our kids who were having meltdowns, and
they're gonna be best friends when they move down here.
Oh my God, yeah, they are.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they're gonna be best friends.
No, we both joked that we're gonna sell them on the street and, you know, go back to our party days.
Just remember, have strict return policies, because they're gonna want to return them.
I know. Damn it. But yeah, so just thanks again to my laser friends, because I mean, you know, none of these friends I made having any idea that they would be like the ones to pick me up when like shit's really fucking hard.
Right.
So, you know, Cindy, Heather, MJ, Liz. I mean, there's a couple, you know, more sprinkled in as well, but you know, definitely those three, because we've all kind of, those 3, 4, whatever, we've all kind of been going through it in either different ways or similar ways. Right. And it just helps to know that, you know, you're not alone, and that, you know, there's a judgment-free zone when shit isn't pretty, that you can bring it and, you know, not feel like, oh, you know, they're going to think I'm a bad mom, or they're going to think I do whatever. Who knows what what my brain would tell me they would think. But yeah, just getting through it day by day. One, you know, a good morning and, you know, a good night is just taking all the little wins and celebrating each little win.
Yeah, we had a good morning this morning.
Yeah. So, I mean, it got so bad that you couldn't bring Jackson with you to go drop him off at school anymore.
Because I didn't know because he was also fighting going into school, and they literally had to rip him from me a couple times, kicking and screaming.
Right.
And then they would take him to the nurse office to like calm down.
Right.
So when that would happen, I would have to like have half of my attention onto JR, and then the other turning around looking at the car, because Jackson was in the car. So I stopped taking Jackson to drop off so that I can just focus on JR if and when he would melt down like that in front of the school.
Well, and today he asked for Jackson to come with.
Yeah, and he, you know, I guess it was like moral support, because they weren't playing in the car together.
Right. No.
They weren't like interacting.
I think he just knows that he knows. I mean, he may not even necessarily understand it, but you know, he knows that we had to do that to, you know, and that, you know, we're like, oh, well, and again, you know, it was like, he seemed like he was in a pretty good mood this morning, and it was like, okay, I'm like, well, you know, if you can walk into school, you know, on your own, then, yes, Jackson can come.
That's
and
exactly what he did.
Like
he got out.
One of the best days in a while.
Yeah, he got out of the car. I gave him his backpack, and he's like, oh, he mentioned a friend's name, and he's like, I gotta hurry up to go catch them. And he gave me a rushed hug and kiss, and then he ran off like he wasn't breaking down 2 days ago to go inside and crying. So it was a good day. And if to change gears a little bit, I hope this looks a little bit better. I'm playing with the lights a little bit and your hair.
I was like, we should bring out my hair. So you probably can't see it, but it's like a whole bunch of colors right now. So red up here, and then it goes into purple, and then blue just here in the front. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I called it, what did I call it the other day? My crisis hair. Although I scheduled this before my life was in crisis, but it was just kind of perfect timing. I don't know that I'll keep it. Like I think it looks nice when it's down, but when it's up, it looks a little.
You don't really wear your hair down too much.
I never wear my hair down. Yeah. I'm wearing my hair down because she styled it yesterday down, and I was like, I can't immediately put it up. I really wanted to, but I was like, I let me leave it. So I left it for today. It's probably going to go up immediately after this. But yeah, we'll see. I'm playing around with it, and it's funny because looking at it on the camera, like I really look, because it looks like red and black on screen, and I look like I match.
You can show a little blue here.
Yeah, but if you're looking really hard. To me, on like quick appearance,
it looks like this light is shining on you.
Yes, that's true.
That's what it looks like.
But anyway, we have a fun guest.
Yes.
I haven't heard from her.
So it's not going to be all child rearing.
Yep, she did. Yeah, no, we're done with the sad.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be happier days.
I will warn you that I do I plan on talking about all of this at one point, because we're very open, we're very like transparent.
We're talking about a mental health episode.
Yeah, we're gonna do a mental health episode. I'm gonna talk about all the bullshit, and part of the reason I want to do that is because, like, when we went through our miscarriage, when I went through that, I felt so alone until I started talking to my friends, and I realized how many friends and family had them. And I'm like, why the fuck didn't any of you tell me? Like, I get it. Everyone, like, mourns or goes through tough times like differently. But the hard part, was like how alone you feel when you're not alone at all. Even people close to you have gone through these things. And, I thank them for like opening up to me when I opened up to them, because it did help a lot. But just I probably talk too much about my personal stuff sometimes, just because I want other people to know they're not alone, because I know how huge it is for me. And in knowing that, like, MJ has had similar struggles, and Heather's had similar struggles, and just stuff like that. Like, you're not alone. And like the one review that we got about someone else struggling, with anxiety, and it's like, you aren't alone. You aren't the only one who struggles with your business, because your brain is a little, different than others maybe, and you're not the only parent who's struggling with kids and a business and all of this. So so we plan to talk about that. I think a little more in depth in December, at some point, or maybe it'll be
for the holidays.
Yeah, right.
A little light talk for the holidays.
But it may be a bonus episode. I'm not quite sure how we're gonna do it yet. That's definitely a plan. Because we talk about life, Laser's life, and all the ish in between. That's definitely
life. A lot of ish.
All the ish. And if it can help one person to kind of like, either get help, or someone else had commented on the last episode with Lizzie, and I had mentioned that I just started therapy, and someone commented that they just started therapy as well. So I think it's great that people are able to talk about that, in the open. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you. No.
It's just like a medical, like,
Yeah. However you can protect your sanity, do it.
Yes.
I highly recommend it. Oh, and today, so this week, which again, these appointments were already planned, but they were very, very well timed. I had a facial. I had my eyelash fill, which I've been loving. I almost went to go take them off, because I've cried more in this last month than I think I probably ever have. But then I realized how much they hid the puffiness from said crying. And I was like, oh no, these bad boys are here to stay. And then I had my hair appointment. And tonight I'm actually going out with a friend for, I don't remember if I've ever done that, gone out on my own. Maybe when Penny was here.
You've gone out, like when Angie's come to town. You guys,
when Angie or Penny. But I mean, it's probably been at least a year or two. It's been like 2 years since someone visited.
Yeah, but no, I feel like you've had a night out in.
Yeah, but they're rare.
Definitely they're rare. So, yes, they are.
Anyway, I'm going out with a friend tonight. I almost told her no initially because I've just been so like.
Right, there's been a lot going on, right?
And bedtimes are especially rough with him, and that's bedtime.
Right.
And then after yesterday, I texted her immediately after the breakdown was over, and I was like, "I'm going tomorrow, whether JR is good or not, because Daddy's home."
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it might mean that I'm leaving a house on fire behind me, but I'm leaving.
Sorry, we got fire extinguishers.
Right, we have a few.
We have a few extinguishers. We're fine.
Just make sure to protect my laser, please.
I'll try.
But anyway,
it's different for me. It's definitely studio first and then laser. But hey,
the laser's more expensive than the studio.
I understand, but this is my baby. The studio, the laser's your baby. The studio's my baby.
If we have no laser, it's going to be difficult to have the podcast.
Not too difficult because we have guests coming on like the one we have. So we don't really need a laser. We just started using the laser more. So
speaking of, let's go get that guest.
Let's go get the guest. We'll be right back. And we're back with Stephanie from the Country Porch Swing.
Hey,
how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Okay. I didn't realize I left out the part of video on you, so sorry to spring that on you, but I mean, you look a lot better than I would have if no one told me that it was video.
Well, I have to leave after this, so
sure. So you're already kind of like ready.
Yeah, so I'm ready to just run out the door. I got my shoes on and everything.
I love it. So I think you found me kind of on social media initially at one point. But you're another one of those that like we have a similar like humor. So I feel like we were kind of like drawn to like the same posts or comments because we're alike in that sense for sure.
Yeah. So I've been lurking all of the social media laser stuff for years. So but I had found you because of the keychain thingies. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to get some of those because I thought they were really cool. And then so I made that post, and then that's when we kind of started talking a little bit more.
It was great. Yeah, she bought keychain thingies, but then she did like a little like opening of them and then like assembling of some keychains. Okay. But the song choice was also where she got me. Because I'm pretty sure it was
Salt and
Pepper. Salt and Pepper. Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the jam. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I mean, if you're gonna put my product with that song, like we're definitely like you're my people's for sure. Yep.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. So how did you get into the laser world? I mean, I know like a little bit of it because I mean a lot of what you make I've noticed has a tooth theme.
Yes. Well, I got into lasers because I could go back really far, but initially I got into lasers just because I was making the wood signs, like the house signs that everybody, makes. Right. I had a vinyl cutter and, all that. That's pretty much the gateway thing.
The gateway drug is what I call it.
And I never really intended on ever selling anything. I just started making some stuff, and then people that I knew was like, hey, would you make me this? Would you make me that? And they started buying stuff from me, and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool.
Right.
People would, suggest get an Etsy shop. You need an Etsy. And I actually started one, and then I really never used it. So like my Etsy shop started in 2017, but I didn't start really selling on it until like 2019, actively using it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to add more of a 3D element to my signs.
Right.
And I started making some ornaments and stuff, just like with my scroll saw a little bit. Not that
But this was still just all on the side, right? You had like a normal job and
I was working full time as a hygienist.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at CNC routers initially, and I was like, that is really cool. But then I found the Glowforge.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like this is where it's at, because you could do so much more. It's versatile.
Right.
And so I ended up getting a Glowforge, and the rest is history. But I've always been a maker, doer.
Crafty.
Yeah, you know, and my mom's a crafter. My dad was he could do anything, build anything, make anything. And
right.
My grandpa was a woodworker, so it's in my blood.
Right. Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm really competitive too. So I mean, that's part of it. Like just always having to do something better, or do something more. I see other people doing stuff and I'm like, well, I could do that better. You know, just weird stuff like that. But
anytime I like, especially even before I got a laser, but especially after I got the vinyl cutter, anytime I'd gift somebody something. So like one year I gave my friend, I don't know what I even gave her, but like the present was in a box that looked like a cupcake because it was very Shazia.
Right.
And so, and I bought that box. I did not make said box, but when I gave it to her and she's like, oh my God, this is so cool. Did you make this? And I was like, no, like not everything I give you is something like I put together. And I'm like, and I look at it and then I start like picking it apart because I hadn't even thought about it until that point.
Right.
I was like, well, I probably could make that. I'm like, but I definitely loved spending $5-10 on it rather than actually making it myself. But like, I've always heard, like, even if I give them something that looks remotely like handmade, they're like, did you make this? And I'm like, no, that wasn't me, but I probably could.
yeah, exactly.
The funny part too with laser stuff, remember when I was making those, the growth charts for kids?
Right.
So I was ordering the number cutouts, having no idea that they were cut or made with a laser. So I was adding those 3D numbers because I didn't want to paint them on, because painting them on without the vinyl cutter at the time, it was like a stencil. And so then there'd be like the stencil mark and I'd have to like fix that stencil. And I was like, I want the 3D element to them. But then I'm like, searching for like wood number cutouts, and there was only so many options that I could find at the time, and you were limited to their sizes and font choices. And then eventually, and that's when my friends started suggesting an Etsy shop to me, and I never did it with those because I was terrified of shipping those things. I mean, they're literally 6 feet long, so like I didn't want to have to like ship them, and the shipping was going to be probably as much as the product was by itself. So I never did it with that. But it was funny when I was switching offices, I think is when I realized I found some old numbers in my craft room. And I was like, oh, these are laser cut. And so then I started looking at them all close. And then I'm like irritated because they didn't clean off the char. And like looking at it so different of like, I don't know that your cut settings were like the best. And like, it's like, you don't know what you don't know. But it was funny seeing them again, like with completely different eyes.
Yeah.
And they didn't market them as like laser, which again is probably, smart, because you don't want people to know all the time how you did it, because then they'll just think that they can go buy the same machine and do it themselves.
But do they want to? That's the thing. Like sometimes I'm like, I could do that myself, but do I really want to?
Well, I love that, like with this community too, that so many of us do so many different things or several different types of crafts, that if I want something, even if it's laser made, if I don't want to make it, I can find somebody who can make it for me. And that's something that's wood or painted or, those kind of things. It's like, I'd rather buy it from someone who makes those all the time and enjoys making them, rather than making it myself and having to buy all that stuff because I don't have it on hand, figure out my own best practices. And I'd rather just buy it from someone. So how did it shift from, kind of doing it as like gifts and stuff like that, and being a dental hygienist to where you're at now?
So I started having actually a lot of back problems when I was in dental hygiene because we're all hunched over, like
Yeah.
that. And I ended up having back surgery, which at the time I didn't necessarily realize that was like, shoving me out of dentistry, but I had back surgery and I was kind of panicking because I didn't know outside of dentistry, like what I could do.
Right.
And
What skills you had.
you kind of hit this, like, some people have professions where you can branch out to other things, but, a dental hygiene without, going to school to be a dentist or something, you're really kind of at
Limited. Yeah.
what you're going to be, unless you're going to go into sales. And
Right.
I was like, no way, not for dentistry anyway.
Right. I was going to say, but you have to do sales now. Of a different
Yeah, but it's different when you're selling your stuff versus
Yes.
other people's stuff.
Right.
But so I went off and I did a few other things. I was an office manager for a while, but I just got so sick of dentistry.
Yeah.
It's just, it's changed over the years so much. I could go on and on about that.
Right.
But I just things started picking up with my Etsy shop, and I had a friend tell me, you should really do this full time. And I was like, absolutely not. No. I was like, are you crazy? I said, if I did that, I would hate it. And there's no way, like no
Which
way.
is always the fear. It's hard because especially when you do buy it as like a hobby or something you enjoy doing, which is totally what happened to me with the vinyl stuff. I thought I wanted to make it, for gifts for people, for my son, for funny shirts. And then when I had to do, 100 shirts a weekend, I was like, this fucking sucks. Like I really did hate it. And I was worried about like, okay, yes, I'm so proud of this business that I built on accident. At the same time, I can't maintain this for very long because I don't enjoy what I'm doing. Right. And then that's where the laser part came in. And thankfully I found something I enjoyed doing with that. But I was scared of buying the laser and having the same feeling I did with the t-shirts. Because it was like, this is a lot more expensive than the vinyl cutter.
That was my fear.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's hard because you don't know. You don't know unless you try it, whether you're going to enjoy doing it or not. But it can be a pricey risk.
Yeah.
It is. And for me, I jump from so many different things. Not that I, can't decide, but I just want to try everything, and not even
like that's a crafter's brain. None of us have ever done started with one thing and stayed with that one thing like forever. I don't think any of us have. Right. If you sew, you also do this, or if you crochet, you also, you know what I mean? We our brains want to do all the things. So I feel like it's very typical.
Yeah. Last year I garden a lot too, and yard work and flowers and blah, blah, blah. And, it's like trying to juggle all of the things that you enjoy doing starts to become really stressful. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm not enjoying this anymore. And then I have a friend who does beekeeping. And I'm like, I think I'd really like to do beekeeping. And I'm like, God, Stephanie, stop. Like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I think I need to get chickens. No. I have to really
hone in
myself in a little bit, because I can get a little bit out of control sometimes.
Yeah. So. I feel like we all can.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, when we've been thinking about things to do for you,
it's all over the place.
I mean, when you moved to Colorado, you had 3 or 4 completely different professions that you were
I was like, oh, I could be a mechanic because I like working on cars, or oh, you know what? Maybe I'll go to school for cutting hair because I like to cutting hair.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll go back to TV.
Yeah.
It was all over the place. Too many options.
And then it took you
a lot of interests,
working at Home Depot at 9 o'clock at night on a day, one day for you to
it was an
be
epiphany.
Like, what the fuck am I doing?
I'll never forget that. I was in the cabinet sections. I worked bathroom and plumbing and whatever. And I was walking down the aisle of vanities and cabinets and stuff. And I'm sitting there, 30, what was that, 30? I think I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
11 and a half years in TV. And I'm walking down the aisle of Home Depot with an apron on. it was Sunday because I was amazed at how empty the store was on,
It's probably
on football
because
Sunday.
it was a football game.
Right.
Yeah.
I was amazed at that. But so there was nothing to do, and I'm walking down the hallway. I'm like, what am I doing with my life?
Right.
I'm like, I'm 30 years old. I have 11 and a half years in TV, and I'm in Home Depot.
Right.
Like
on a Sunday during
blocking these things. I'm like, what am I doing? So like the next day I put out on Facebook for my TV friends, and like right away I got like, you know, I got an interview and then followed up by a job. And I again, I also remember when I went in for my interview and I put on the headset because he's like, oh, just listen into the show so you kind of get a feel of like how we do things here at this station. Right. And I put the headset on and I heard the director and I was like, I'm home.
Right. It felt comfortable.
It felt comfortable. I was like, I'm home.
Yeah. Well, but then they told you that you were overqualified.
Well, I mean, I knew that going in. Yeah.
But thankfully they gave you a chance. Yeah,
he gave me a chance. He I think he really likes my my answers so much so that, I mean, we're still friends. He's no longer he's no longer on TV actually. Yeah. And we're still friends on Facebook. But yeah, he I think he liked my answers because I told him, like, listen, you don't know me. Yeah, I have to prove myself. So I'm
you have to start somewhere. I mean, you're in a whole you were in a whole new state at the time, and they can't just like, especially because those positions weren't open and they didn't know you. Right. But like,
and TV is very word of mouth of where you've worked and who you've worked with.
And thankfully that helped at least get you in the door.
Yes.
Because it took someone who knew you.
Right.
To like,
someone who knew someone who knew someone.
Yeah.
That's how it went.
Because it was Kirk who was kind of pushing for you and you didn't even know him yet, right?
Well, so not only it was the anchor, the morning anchor who was pushing for me, but he was pushing for me because of a producer that I had worked with that he knew from just an interview. They never really worked together.
Yeah, my so they barely knew each other either.
They just were for the same hometown. So they became friends when my friend interviewed at his station. So they stayed close, and that's how it all went. It was crazy.
Yeah. And now we're trying to get you out.
And now I'm trying to leave.
But you would still do a similar job, but for yourself. You'd just be
the freedom of making my own schedule.
Well, and the content just changes. It changes from news to whatever else. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get you there.
Crazy how your directions go. Like, I know some people have like a whole plan.
Right. And they execute it. And I'm like, who are you people?
I have no idea. Like, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. I'm like, oh, I like this. Oh, wait, squirrel. You know, it's
total squirrel.
And I find, you know, some people might find that really stressful, but I find it kind of freeing, you know, because I'm just not stressing about what's next. And maybe I should
stuck doing any one thing either. Like, if you decide that you don't, that's my it's a both a big con and a big pro about lasers is you can do anything. So like, if you find something that you no longer like or that you don't like even right away, you can try a million other things, but it can also be overwhelming because you can try a million other things.
In doing that, you just kind of figure out where you belong. I mean, you know, I've actually started to enjoy the social media side of it. You know, I never ever thought I would ever be doing it at all. You know, I was the old lady who was like, TikTok, is that clock app where you you know, I'm like,
I love it.
You know, that's the kids days, you know, but you know, then I started
me up on social media, by the way. That's the whole reason I wanted you on, is just because her videos entertain me. And again, I think she's just similar, and like, she's just like kind of goofy and like doesn't really, you know, care, and just kind of, you know, it's normal for her. Although she told me that I was like, no, you do this all the time on social media. And she's like, do you realize how many takes I do when I do that? I'm like, okay, that's true. I do the same thing. But like, I don't know. It comes more natural, I think, to you because you're just being you. And so I think that like that's what, you know, kind of drew me to you on social media, was because like, you know, you're you and funny.
Well, thank you. No, I'm just me. And so, you know, when I do a lot of takes sometimes, so I have to tone down my personality just A little bit, I don't want to get in trouble on the internet.
Oh, this is true. Yes.
But,
what was the one that you did the other day? Or not the other day, it was like a couple weeks ago. Someone made a comment to you and you had to like address it.
Was it when they made the inappropriate comment about me dancing a little jig for them?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so yeah, and then they called me a Karen because
yes, that one.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I'll watch those things or I'll read it, whatever the comment is, and I'll be thinking I'm coming in hot, like, you just don't, but then I'm like, okay, let's calm down a little bit.
Right.
We're not going to let it slide, but we're also going to be a little bit more mature about it.
Right.
So, like, we're going to address this, but not make them feel like complete asshats.
Right.
So, and so far it's been okay, but I'm a very, very sarcastic person.
Yeah.
And I'm very I just deal with life with jokes and sometimes pretty dark humor. So I have to chill it a little bit.
Totally my coping mechanism. Like if I it's sometimes I'll be like not in the mood to joke, but I can't, like I'm not even in the mood and I can't help it because it's my coping mechanism. And I mean, we talked about on the pre-show about how I literally walked outside yesterday, like away from our 5-year-old having a breakdown. And so I'm hiding outside as he's dealing with it because I'm like, I can't today. And I'm sending like goofy pictures to Heather, like of me in the dark outside. And she's joking about like how she's coping with her son's, you have to. And like, we're both complimenting how we both look pretty and we're like, oh, you look pretty. Oh, you too. Like, that's how I handled that moment was like, because I wasn't crying, I was like, I have to do something. So I'm like, I'm not fucking crying today. So we're going to kill this with laughs and sarcasm.
Exactly. I mean, that's how you got to get through life, I think.
Yeah.
Just, I remember those days when my kids were littler and there were times I'd go, I remember one time sitting in my car in the parking lot of Walmart eating a giant dark chocolate and texting my friend, and I was like, you really hit rock bottom when you're at Walmart in the parking lot, devour chocolate. 1, because you don't want to share, and 2, because you're just like had enough.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
So, yeah, I just.
Yep. So you enjoy the social media side of it. So you were surprised that you enjoyed that part, which I'm surprised too, because I don't. Like I do, but I don't. I like the trends that come out that like you can kind of be like goofy or whatever, and like some of those I'm like, oh yeah, that's one for me because like I can really like play into it. But then again, the other side of it is my anxiety of like showing the goofy me and like waiting for the person who's going to make that comment or whatever. And then when I realized I got a lot of feedback from people who like aren't in the laser world of like friends and family who are like, oh, your videos crack me up. And I'm like, oh, I'm surprised that like they are actually funny to people, because half the time I look back at them and I cringe and I'm like, oh my God, how many people are watching this? Like, oh, why did you do that?
So, it's funny because I'm actually very self-conscious and insecure, and I'm an introvert. I'm an extroverted introvert where I could do without people, just
right.
In general, and most of the time I'm annoyed and just, and even, and the social media thing, it has its good parts and bad, because you do get those people that you're just like, for fuck's sake, like I literally just said that or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Why are you here?
But, right. Like, did you not see my last 10 videos? Like but then you also just create a lot of relationships. Like I have a lot of people now that I actually consider friends that I've never ever even met in person. And it's funny because my mom said the other day, she sent me a TikTok and it was of somebody that I talk to very frequently.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's my friend. And she goes, is it your friend? Or is it an internet friend? And I'm like, God, Mom, like
they're the same thing nowadays,
right?
Mom. Okay.
Yeah. Like she was talking to me like I had an invisible friend or something. Is that a real friend?
She's like concerned about you.
I'm like, I think I need to start
Do you
going.
really know them, or are you just stalking them? Which is totally acceptable nowadays too. I can't tell you how many people like, depending on what kind of stalker level you are, but like I've had many people are like, oh yeah, I've been stalking you for months, you crack me up, and like, but they don't like say anything because again, like social media isn't their thing, or whatever. But yeah, it's made some stalking appropriate.
It kind of helped me to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. So this is kind of maybe a little bit of background information, but so I lost my dad in November to COVID. So we're coming up on 4 days. Will be a year when he passed away.
Oh man.
And my my dad was the most outspoken. I mean, he could fit the F-bomb in one sentence, like Guinness Book of World Records number of times. I mean, but he
sounds awesome.
Yeah. And, sometimes you'd be like, okay, Dad, and he was very inappropriate all the time.
Yes.
But when we were at his funeral, the preacher said, or pastor or whatever, he said, I went and talked to some of Randy's old coworkers, and me and my dad's wife looked at each other and we were like, oh shit.
Like, uh-oh.
We're like, what? Like, this can't be good.
Why are you bringing this up right now?
What could they have possibly said that, is appropriate to share here?
Right.
And said that he was unapologetically him.
Yeah.
And that just like stuck with me because it's so true.
Yeah.
He was like, he didn't care if you loved him or hate him.
Yeah.
He would tell you, and it's not, not that he was always right, but he would always just tell you the way it was.
Yeah.
And he didn't care. And so ever since then, I've always in my mind been that way.
Right.
I'm just
me. Kind of held a lot of it back.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
I'm so scared that people wouldn't like me.
Right.
Or that,
Same.
I would offend somebody or burn a bridge or, whatever. And I just started thinking,
who cares?
Why?
Right. Yeah.
So that just really stuck with me there. And not that that's why I started, but I started thinking, just start putting yourself out there and stop worrying about what
it's all of those experiences that make us who we are, and that goes into your business as well, because the same thing is like, I relate to you on that part about like, your sarcasm and your humor. And even like one of them, when you were talking about being on the podcast and you're like, oh, I'll try anything once. And then you joked about the cookie that your husband brought home and
Shady.
What did you say? It smelled like
rotten meat. And I'm not kidding. It smelled. I just
she was like, nah, and threw that in the trash. But like, just those, like, that's a natural transition for you when talking about like, oh, I was gonna try something once. And so like, I relate to you on that sense, but like your customers are going to as well. Like you finding your niche in something is usually you honing into who you are and then putting that out there because again, like it shows in your work, and then your customers are either drawn to your pieces because of that, or they're drawn to you and they want to order from you. So learning to kind of be like unapologetically you. I mean, yes, you don't want to go too far and be like just an asshole for no reason because you feel like you can be, but there's limits to it.
Right.
But owning who you are and just like leaning into that is huge, and it takes a lot of us like a really long time to do that, if ever.
Well, I mean, you spend so much time in your life. I tell my kids, if I could go back to even just like high school and know what I know now and just not and be like, screw you guys, know, like none of you even,
Yep.
Just it's you start to just realize that none of it is as big of a deal, and people aren't paying attention to you nearly as much as you think they are.
Exactly.
It's
right.
like, we all got our own shit,
Yes.
and there are some people who make everybody's business their business, but it's just like you're less of a big deal to other people than you think you are.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, that was just something I had to start to realize, and then it just starts to get a little more natural, and easy to do.
And so did you have to leave? Did you leave after like the back surgery and not go back, and then just kind of like lean into this? So like, how did that really progress into what it is now?
So I had back surgery, then I went and I started just doing.
Oh, right. You did the office. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't have to do the clinical side. And I actually just worked somewhere that I didn't want to be associated with. And that's really hard because that's one of my big things is like, I can't work for somebody who does things that I think are unethical or, whatever the case may be, but you can't just up and leave a job either, so I had to just figure out my life. And then I started working at another dental office through a friend that I had worked with before she worked there. And I loved the job. It was a great office, great dentist, but I just hated coming to work every day. And I was like, I can't keep doing this, and then I started doing some clinical work too, because I'm like, I'm fine. I always push myself to do more than I should.
Right.
I'm fine. And there's more money in dental hygiene than working in the office side.
Of course. Right.
You're driven a little bit by that. And then started having back pain again. And I was like, I don't ever want to have to go through surgery.
Yeah.
And then, my dad passed away. And I was like, okay, you know what? I need to start thinking about my life and what I really want to do.
Yeah.
He worked so hard his whole life just trying to retire. I mean, that man, if you wanted to talk about entrepreneurs, he had so many businesses, and some of them were good, some of them were not.
Right.
But I mean, he drove bus, and I'm not talking like school bus. He bought 2 buses, and he'd haul seniors and people to casino. And, he did that. He drove truck, semi. He had a check cashing business. He had a construction business. So he was,
wow.
He's like the epitome of, if you want to do something, try it and take risks.
Yeah.
And so I kind of told myself, this is what he would want me to do. You know, this is what he would do is say, you know what, if it doesn't work, I can always go back to hygiene.
Yep.
Or I can do something there. It's not like I'm giving up everything, but why not try it?
Yeah, you're not necessarily giving up everything forever, which is, I mean, the same thing that we do to try and convince ourselves that, it's time for you to leave soon is that, like, worst case scenario, it's always going to be there. He can go back. Yes, it might suck because now you lose the seniority or whatever. You might have to go to another station, but like, just because you're leaving doesn't mean that it's necessarily permanent if it doesn't work out. And you won't know if it's going to work out unless you try it.
Right.
Yeah. I keep hearing people say on social media, we're just on this floating rock. And I am like, we put so much like worry and stress into all these little decisions that we make. But in the end, like what? Like, what if it's a mistake? Who cares?
Right.
Some of it might be a big deal. We do, have families. We have
we do have to pay the bills.
but we find a way to do things, and if you can take that risk, then freaking do it.
Yeah.
So, it's your whole perspective changes when you're seeing stuff like that. But like I said, my dad worked so hard to retire, and then he never made it to retirement.
Yeah. Or there's the other side where your grandfather, who worked his ass off, and then soon after he retired, he passed.
6 months to a year of actual
retirement
before he got sick, and then it was doctor visit after doctor visit until ultimately he passed as well.
Right. Yeah. Like you can't just work for that time because like, again, like you very well could not make it to that time. And even if you do, how long after that time are you going to be around as well?
Yeah. So I struggled with fairness after that. After he passed, I struggled with fairness a lot.
Right. Yeah.
Because he didn't get what
he worked his ass off to get.
He worked all that time. And then when he was supposed to like enjoy himself,
he didn't get to. Right.
Yep. Yep. And, you know, and there's something about like, I never, ever, so this is kind of weird, but when I started doing this full time, I've just started to get to drive my kid to school and pick him up from school. How big of a deal that was to me. I cried. And I'm not
One was huge. Like we're in that position now where John only gets to drive them to school, and that's the only time he sees them, Monday through Thursday.
Yep.
And like, you know, after we had a bad day Wednesday, and, you know, I asked him to take yesterday off, and he got to pick up JR from school on an unplanned day. And you told me JR, like,
oh yeah, he lost his mind.
Yeah. He was like, couldn't contain the happiness of seeing him on a day that he wasn't planned on seeing him. And, you know, and it's like, those are the parts that matter. And those are the moments that we need to lean into, because that's the, like, the main reason we want to do it. It's not for the money. It's not necessarily for like the freedom, I guess. Yes, that's like a bonus, but the freedom to be able to pick them up. And if they do have a school event going on a Wednesday night, that you can actually come
go there. Yeah.
When he's old enough to have like sports games and stuff, you know, as it is now, I usually wouldn't even go, because then it means I'm traveling there by myself with another, you know, it's part of the reason we don't schedule those events during those days. He has swimming on Friday and Saturday because that's his days off, you know? So it's huge. And it's huge for them too, for your kids. Like it means a lot that you're able to show up.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I spent so much time. I was that person who would never call in. I would, you know, always put my work first. You know, I would stay late. I'd come in early. And I started to realize that it just, you know, in the end, they still didn't give that big, you know, shit about you.
Well, I keep telling him, I'm like, you can work harder in your job right now and give your all. Say yes to every single overtime. Like, yes, if you say yes to a bunch of overtime, you're going to make more money, but at the sacrifice of something else in your life, your family, whatever. But you working hard, you showing up early, you going to that extra assignment after you're supposed to be off and doing all that, it's not going to make you any more money. No. It's not like,
or hold you up at any more, like, you know, if they have to lay me off, they're going to lay me off and say sorry.
Right. Yeah, not gonna, exactly. Yeah, they don't necessarily appreciate, and it doesn't turn into like a benefit to your life. It's a benefit to that company. Yeah.
And you set expectations too, because then people start expecting you, you know, you can be that person who goes above and beyond all the time, and it's just expected of you. And then you have, you know, your coworker. I've always had great coworkers for the most part, but you know, you get that one, the bare minimum, and that's okay too. And that's what's expected.
And they get paid the same as you.
Yeah.
The one who does the bare minimum makes the same as the one who's fucking breaking their back.
Or near this.
Yeah. And I remember that was the point. That was when my brain switched, was the year after a shit ton of layoffs. My group went from 12 people to 2. My bosses were now in a whole nother state. We were like the stepchildren that like they always forgot about with events and that kind of stuff.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. And then I worked my ass off, and it came time for raises, and they gave me nothing, not 1%, not 2%, not 0.5%. And I was like, and then it immediately switched for me. And, you know, they kept trying to spin it as, you know, you should be like, you got to be happy you have a job. You got to be happy you weren't
laid off.
And I'm like, no, fuck that. Like,
Right.
you know what? Now you're going to get the crystal I should have given you this whole last year.
Right.
And that's going to be crystal as a 0 raise crystal. I'm going to do the bare minimum because you're going to pay me the damn same. And if you fire me, then I have to find another job and I get to leave this shit, this shit. But it was like, it was that switch for me going from a boss who stupid cough.
That's what happens when you talk about it.
Going from a boss who valued me, and actually, like, I saw that in my reviews. My hard work actually was returned in raise time and bonus time. And, I didn't love what I was doing, but I loved who and with I was working for. And then as soon as that switched, and it was literally like night and day, it was like, I don't need this shit. We went from like our income was like a fraction of what it was when we moved here.
Mm-hmm.
And although, yes, there were some really bad days of like, are we going to be able to pay this or pay that or whatever? Right. But overall, way happier than having to chant my salary to myself to not walk out of the place.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like when we spend, like I was working, we had a 980 schedule. So I worked like 9 hours every single day, not including the travel time there and back. I'm spending, 11 hours of my life for this place, yet I'm miserable. Like, for what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and your family feels it. You're not the same person when you come home, and you're not able to give that good side of you to them, and it's just not fair to anybody.
Right.
So, yeah, I will have to say it's not like I would have been able to just up and quit my job if my husband didn't have a good job. And, I'm totally grateful for that. And he is amazing and supports me. And,
well, I mean, same with you. I mean, you, with the smaller salary we had, you even entertained the fact that like I could attempt to start something else, start a business on the side and see where it was going to go. And I didn't contribute to the bills with my business at all for 2 years. 100% of the money I made went into my business account and didn't have to go, because it would have taken me that much longer to grow. If I had to make a sale and then use that money to pay the phone bill or use that money to pay whatever, instead I could reinvest it into my business and I was able to grow, a lot faster. So yeah, having that support system, however it looks in other families, it's huge because you do need that usually to like kind of just help give you a little bit of a boost and a little less pressure, of having to make it immediately.
Yeah, it's great. So my husband doesn't understand or doesn't really, and this is no fault of his own. He doesn't care about the labor stuff. He would never be one of the husbands who quit his job and helped me, and that he just, The other day I was watching, we were laying in bed and he was scrolling through TikToks, which his TikTok feed is a lot weirder than mine. I'm like, your TikTok is weird. And one, because he follows me, one crafting thing popped up that wasn't me. And he scrolled away from that so fast.
What does his feed look like?
His feed,
it's probably similar to his.
Maybe not.
It's not inappropriate, so I won't go there. But he no, I better not. He's got a lot of Taylor Swift and just random celebrity stuff that pops.
Not where I thought this was going.
Were you hoping it was guns?
No, it's funny with the stuff
or YMH stuff.
Yeah.
My husband is not. He fishes a ton. His internet porn is looking at baits online. He'll be scrolling like through like intently, and I'm like, "What are you looking at?" And I look and I'm like, "Oh, baits."
Fun.
He's got a whole like Bass Pro Shop set up in the back.
That would be candy store for you.
Oh my god. Yeah,
but only on the gun section. Not the fishing area.
But you like fishing too?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I do like fishing. I enjoy it.
I feel like you would still be entertained. It would still be like, ooh, what's this?
I don't get the fishing stuff like he doesn't get laser stuff.
Right.
I know, and he watches all those fishing shows and YouTube videos, people fishing, and I'm like, how many times can you watch somebody catch a fish?
A lot.
You know, I know that's what he said. Well,
A lot.
every time and it's so exciting, and I'm like,
no.
Yeah, because every time you watch a fishing show like on YouTube or something, they always catch a fish. So when you go out and because you rarely catch a fish,
it sets you up for disappointment.
No, it's literally fish porn because every time they catch a fish. But when you go out, not so much.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like the kids who watch other kids play video games.
Kind of, because they always win.
You don't win, but then you go watch
and you
YouTube.
learn tricks and you learn how to do, like you take their tricks and it is what it is. And mine is also shooting. I watch shooting videos. How many times a paper target
God.
or how many times don't you hear ping ping ping?
And I'm sitting over there rolling my eyes of like, oh, what gun are they covering now? What one is on your wish list now?
He started selling. So I didn't realize there's this whole thing where people sell and trade their baits online.
Especially if you make them like flies. Yeah.
What? So this whole thing. And he started doing that. And so he's been like
bait underground.
He'll come over and he'll be like, can I get some of your packaging materials? He's like, I don't want to brag, but I made some sales today, And I'm like, oh God, and then the other he went and bought a bunch of nail polish. He's like, well, what kind of nail polish? I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, you can paint baits with those.
Especially the glitter.
I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah. I go, why don't you start making baits? He's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then he goes and buys like 6 different colors of nail polish so he can paint. But it's funny.
That's awesome.
This thing, and this is my thing. So yeah.
I love it. Well, and I love how you have like your thing too, that even if you do come into this laser world, you'll find your own thing within that, which would most likely be a
very
fiber
dangerous.
Laser
very dangerous
and guns
if I did that.
In many ways than one.
Yeah.
Those fiber lasers are so cool to watch.
I could watch them all day long. Like that's my laser porn is watching a fiber laser go like whatever that noise is that it makes and it in like 30 seconds.
It's like it's so
cool. Where like it does. That's the crazy. I don't know enough about them to understand like why it does that. But like the fiber lasers, they always do several passes, and like that last pass is when like all those details comes together. And like it looks really cool even before then.
Right.
And then you do that third pass and you're like, oh, and it like adds to like dimension.
Clear and shiny. And,
right. Yeah. This is what our life has come to. Fishing and laser porn. I love it. I mean, hey, it works for us, right?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So what are your goals? Because it sounds like, I mean, you've been doing this it's like a year-ish, newish.
So I had my Glowforge for 2 years.
Okay.
And then I just upgraded to my Mira 9 in March. And
just love it like I love it.
And I'm so glad that I got it this year before the holiday season.
Oh man, right?
Get used to it and get the hang of it and just it's nice.
Mine was delivered in December when I got mine, so it was not there in time for that holiday season, and that was the holiday season that I went viral. So it was rough. It was like this carrot like dangling in front of me
forge died.
That I could and that I couldn't. Well, no, that happened the year prior. It didn't die the year I went viral, thankfully. But I still had to like outsource to some friends and stuff. But yeah, so the first or second Christmas, my Glowforge did die. That lovely black lid cable went out on me. And so I was at Amanda's house until 3 a.m, fulfilling all of my orders. And making it extra dirty because at the time I was doing a lot of wood stuff still, and she was only doing acrylic because she basically went straight into acrylic. So I made her poor machine a lot dirtier compared from acrylic to wood. And I was like, stayed until 3 a.m. and I'm like, your machine is nice and dirty. I'm gonna go now. Bye. I love you. But, right. And then the following year I had and my laser was supposed to be delivered in October, but lovely COVID and all the delays with what was going with, the ports and stuff, I didn't get it until, so I was supposed to have it before Christmas, but didn't get it until like basically after I had already cut off Christmas orders. But at least it was there for the other years. And I mean, it makes a huge difference. You at least know that not that it won't necessarily not go down, but that you have them there for you if and when it does go down, and that you should hopefully be, back into, back up and working a lot sooner than potentially with the Glowforge and, answering emails and then waiting 3 more days for them to get back to your answer.
Well, I was so thankful I didn't have any of the
issues,
problems and the horror stories that you hear. But I knew it was coming.
Right. Or it had potential.
Earmark, and everything has a lifetime anyway. Right. But I just considered myself lucky that I had made it 2 years. Yeah. And the carriage wheels started cracking. And I had bought 3D printed ones off of Etsy, which they worked okay, but they were still a little bumpy. So my cuts weren't as good
as you'd like. Yeah.
And I had ordered a set from Etsy and a set from Glowforge just so I could see which ones would show up first. And of course,
right.
Which one showed up first. It wasn't Glowforge's.
Right.
And then I finally switched us over, but I had already, been waiting on my Mira. So, that's just even makes it harder because you're like, God, come right on
there. Yep.
like I can just make it to there. So, yeah. And, I'm so glad I did because so I was going to make a post about this, and I try not to talk bad on Glowforge because I got started and everything.
Totally. Yeah.
But sometimes I just want to be like, don't do it.
Right. It's hard because it's like, again, I would never have gotten into this world if it wasn't for the Glowforge and the fact that it was so easy and that I was able to be naive and start slowly. But it's hard to, not be like, don't do it, because, there are some better options if you have the space and the budget, and like the Mira 5. Emily calls it the baby Mira. It's a great backup if you really, really do want this to be a business. If you can spring the Mira 5, because it's also a desktop laser, but you have the support. It can be an industrial business machine where the Glowforge, if you turn it into that, a million people have successful businesses with their Glowforge, but it's not necessarily it's like having the best tool for the job. It is slower with engraving, and you can, you can't cut as thick materials or as fast, or, whatever. Time is money, and it is slower just because of the budget and putting it all into that pretty compact package, Well,
and since Glowforge raised their prices, I bought mine
too. Yeah.
Pro. Now, if you compare the Glowforge to the Mira 5, it doesn't make sense because the speed and the power and, the size of the Mira 5 is desktop size.
Right.
I just was looking at the specs of it, and I didn't know, and maybe I'm wrong and I read it wrong, but you can fit a rotary in the Mira 5. Is that
when and if we have the space, I want the baby Mira, the Mira 5, so that I don't have to break down and set up after tumblers every time. It's not that big of a deal, but it is. I will procrastinate on my tumbler orders for days to a week just because I don't want to pull out the crumb tray, pull out all the blades. Thankfully, I have him because he doesn't mind. I'll be like, babe, I need to do some tumbler orders. Can you set up the tumbler for me? So he doesn't mind. So thankfully, I have him. But it would be so nice to set it up once and never have to worry about, set up and break down, because it's not hard. It's just annoying.
I don't take my blades out. Are you doing engraving something? I can fit my rotary in without taking my blades out.
Which one do you have?
The 9.
Well, which rotary do you have?
Well, I did both, but I have a Pyburn.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the Pyburn.
You'll have to, next time you set it up on your blades, show me and let me know. I have the magnetic feet and they fit like, I don't know. It just, yes. I mean, that could be the difference. But it just fits like flat and I don't know if it's better, but I was just always told to take the blades out and put it on the bottom.
Okay.
I've never really tried with the blades in.
So that may be the difference.
Yeah, definitely show me a picture though next time, because hey, if he could save a step, because I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, those blades are like, even when I've rarely cleaned my machine, but when I do, I just try to wipe the blades down and not actually take them out because
Little hack though, Lisa Payne in the groups, which I had been trying to like find something similar, but she was the one who shared the hack of what she found. But umbrella like holders are perfect for when you take out those blades to put them into, because I was always putting them into like a random box I'd have, and the box would fall over, or you'd walk into the edge of the blades and then now it fell over. But it basically looks like a tall, skinny trash can, and you put the blades in there and it holds the blades perfectly, and then you can put them back. But that's a little laser hack for you.
But you don't just dump them all over the floor and trip over them. When
I did prior to her hack. And I was like, what can I put these in? And I kept trying to like find a tall, skinny box, but then the box was never like heavy enough to keep it all like, upright. And, thankfully Lisa Payne to the rescue. Well, I know you have to run off to your other stuff. So what is some advice? I mean, again, we've already covered some great advice, but what would be your advice to a new or struggling laser/business owner? That
patience. I think so many people, well, I mean, the laser business, if you're wanting to go into a business, is very enticing. And I think a lot of people look at it and think it's just an easy, quick money maker.
You're going to print money.
And you're just going to buy this laser and you're just going to start, money's going to just start.
You're going to post once and everyone's going to flock to you, which it can happen. I mean, it happened to Lisa.
But chances are not great, and it's a lot of work. It's so much work, and people, I don't think, get it. I've had a friend that I was showing my laser to, and she's like, I think I could do this. I'll just get one and I'll start doing it. I'm like, yeah, but here's this, and like, you gotta know, and you gotta
full picture.
You gotta and there's so many different aspects. It's not just throwing something in there and printing it and calling it. There's so much to learn about.
I mean, it's because you make it look easy at that point, because of all the work that you've done up until that point to get it to there, like, the right materials, the right settings, the right glue and adhesive and paint. And like, it'll look easy, but that's because you missed all the stuff that we did before to figure it out.
Yeah. And even the back end stuff, like websites, marketing, social media, all the figuring out shipping and that stuff is, some of it's just a full-time job in itself. And I just people need to be patient and just take their time, learn, and not expect it to happen overnight, and be unique, because I see so many people just copying the same thing over and over.
What are your bestsellers posts? And like what someone else's bestseller is won't necessarily be that for you and your market and your audience. And
I rarely jump on the trends, like the measuring, or the hammer. Great. I rarely do that, but the times that I have, it's never worked for me.
Yeah.
And some people it works really well, but I found that the most success that I've had is stuff that I come up with on my own. And some of it's totally by accident. I'll post something that I think is total crap.
Yeah.
Not that it's quality crap, but just not my style or my, and I'll post it and it goes crazy. And then
it's always the thing you're surprised about.
Yes. The thing that I think, oh man, this is going to I better stock up on all this stuff, because once I post it, it's just going to go crazy. And then
that means it's guaranteed not to sell.
Wait a minute. Like, this is really good shit. Come on.
Right. You should like this. Why aren't you liking it?
Yeah. So it's just all trial and error, and you're gonna fail a lot, and just know that going in. But it's fun. It's a lot
solid advice. I agree. And find your tribe. Find your laser tribe. So if they want to follow you, where can they follow you on that TikTok app or Instagram?
I mostly post to TikTok now. I'm trying to branch out more to I have Instagram and Facebook, but most of my stuff is on TikTok at the Country Porch Swing. And then I have my website, but that's mostly just for shopping my stuff. But I do a lot of laser tips, or if I figure out something I think is cool, I like to share it with other people. And, all the really awesome suppliers, that we deal with. And, I like to share those because they're
keychainthingies.com plug.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, these things are freaking awesome.
Man, they're life-changing. Like, I had to do jump rings the other day because I released that new earring bundle, and I was like, jump rings suck. I remember how much they suck. So I need to find the keychain thingies equivalent to earrings, because me no likey.
I've seen those little earring hooks that have like the little ball on the end. They're the fish
I ordered 4 of those from my normal earring supplier, and none of them worked for me. Okay. So I gotta find, but I'm on a mission. I'm not giving up yet, because again, those mean no jump rings, and I'm all for that. So
I'm still using jump rings too, because it's the only thing that I found to hang right and to dance right and look the way I want them to look. But it would be to skip those stupid jump rings.
Right. Yep, I told him it was a set of 6 earrings, and I also have issues with my hands, but if it's 6 earrings, there's 2 jump rings per earring, so 4 jump rings per set.
Yeah.
So that's 24 jump rings for 6 earrings. And I was like, I finished them, and I was like, oh no, this is your job from now. Like, I really struggle to put past stuff on to delegate. I have no problem delegating. There will be solid instruction, because you do have to put it, if you don't put it on right, the earring will be backwards. So I'll have to show you that part. So I will care about that part. But other than that,
stuff you never thought you'd have to think about. And then you're like, wait a minute, why is this turning the wrong way?
Yeah. So annoying. But that will definitely, I texted him and I was like, this is going to be your job from now on, because physically I can't. And then I also hate it. Well, you were fun, Stephanie. Yes. Thank you for agreeing to, even though you're like,
Hey, I'll try anything once, right?
Except meat smelling.
Except meat cookies.
Meat cookies.
Well, thanks for joining us for an hour, and it's been another great episode of the Riley Black Project with Crystal and John.
Bye.
Maybe we're all done.